Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Product Angle Show. And on today's episode, I have Rohit, Prabhakar, and Neeraj Mathur. Hey, guys.
Hey Pradeep and Neeraj.
Hey there, guys. Good morning, or good afternoon, I should say, to you guys on the East Coast. Glad to be here.
Thank you. So, before we get started, Rohit, thank you for doing this. I'd love to learn a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
As you said, my name is Rohit Prabhakar. I'm currently work for Thomson Reuters. I lead their digital marketing and e-commerce globally. So what it has is there are a couple of teams that focuses on digital channels. There are teams that focus on e-commerce. Then I have teams that focus on data analytics, optimization, and a few more things in demand generation. So that's what I do currently. And in total, what I'm responsible for is to ensure that we have a great customer experience and huge business growth from all our digital channels. Let it be digital marketing or e-commerce. That's what I do.
Thank you. And Neeraj, I think we know, or some of us know who you are, but let us know for those that don't know who you are.
Sure. Thanks, Pradeep. Hey, you go. So my name is Neeraj Mathur. I think of myself as a mission-oriented product person who looks forward to making things easier, simpler for others. Born and raised in New Delhi, India. I've been here in the Valley for more than 2 decades.
Excellent. So this is a question that I've started to ask pretty frequently. And we'll start with you, Rohit. Tell us something that we cannot Google about you.
Interesting question. And in fact, I feel I would like to know the same about you and Neeraj also. One thing that you can't Google about me, of course you can Google. I'm from Chandigarh. It's a little bit north of where Neeraj is from in India. What you can't Google about me is I'm undergrad in medical science. So I did a bachelor in science in medical. And then because of the power of associations, I just got into computers. I never did anything in medical science ever. And that's something you can't find about me. It's an interesting path, from undergrad in medical science, moving into technology, loving the technology field. And then eventually from technology, moving into sales, and from sales to product. And then eventually from product, I have been in now mostly in digital and marketing side, for last 10 plus years. So those are the things you can't find on Google if you Google about me. But I feel it's pretty interesting journey, a journey that has been created not just by my own mastermind or I had a plan, no plans. It was something power of association. I don't know. Now I'm associating with 2 of you. I don't know. Maybe I will be in product in 3 years.
Would love to have you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. How about you, Neeraj?
Boy, at this rate, I'm actually gonna give out all the different secrets that are out there.
I'm thinking we should just co-host this thing together.
Look, we talked about. I'm a big avid sports person. Besides reading, which is there, I love sports, all kinds of sports. I recently took running and so on and so forth. But what's little known about is my love for cricket is very well known. I still follow as much as I can. Bummed out about the season getting canceled this summer, the IPL season. But I used to be cricket captain of my cricket team in school days. If I had not taken a path to be an engineer, that was a serious path I would have taken. I was pretty decent as well, if I may say so. But yeah, my love for cricket has, it took about a 10 years gap when I moved to the United States, couldn't find anything else here, started watching other sports, hockey in particular, ice hockey. But I used to be a pretty avid cricket player, not just now. I now love to watch.
Batter, bowler, or all-rounder?
I can do both. I used to be an opening batsman and an opening bowler.
Excellent.
Now, Neeraj, you need to visit Minneapolis. Every evening, I and my son, and of course, my daughter and my wife too. We all play gully cricket, so we have stumps and everything. So, literally, we have a nice, it's not a pitch; it's a concrete, driveway. So we play over there. Nothing serious like you, not at all. I used to always struggle with this game. I always used to play every day, but I could never say I was decent at it.
That's good. Yes.
Yes.
What about you, Pradeep? What is one thing that we haven't had a chance to learn about you yet?
I guess there's this. I guess I could tell this story. So I'm currently based in New York. There's a Pradeep in London that upset somebody in London, and that person thought it was me initially. And I was like, I was not in London at that time. So it was I think it was a meetup or an event or something, and they introduced themselves as Pradeep. And all of a sudden, I'm connected to this other person, and it sounded like that they upset that person, and that person thought that I was that Pradeep that they met in London. But I'm like, I wasn't even in London at that time. So it's kind of funny that they thought that they met me at an event in London when I was in New York. So it was just kind of funny when they told me that story.
Fascinating.
Definitely. So Rohit, how did you get started in marketing?
Again, as I shared with you, it's all like opportunities and associations.
Yeah.
That's how my entire career and my life has been defined. All been influenced by some people who has definitely been people that I really look up to at every different stage, and some opportunity came through things like those. So talking about marketing, I was part of CIO team at a company called Copart. Previously, before my last job. So at that point of time, as I landed over there in that job, one of the biggest struggle I saw between the CIO and the CMO team was there was never an alignment between those two teams.
Yeah.
And I was always good on the business side, as good as I was on the technology side. And I asked my CIO to allow me to step into that role and start working with marketing. I got exposed to marketing. I didn't become marketer at that point of time, but then I started to know about things that are marketing. I started to understand, be in their meetings, understand what they are trying to do, or all those fancy things that anybody who is not on the marketing side sees, those sexy, awesome things that you do in that marketing world. Started to get a feel about that, and then slowly and slowly started also getting introduced into it. Then I left this company. I went and started working for a company called McKesson. It's the biggest healthcare company in the world. I think right now it's the second biggest company in the world when it comes to healthcare. I joined them in their marketing organization. I was responsible mostly for the digital channels, .coms, web, and is my real background. That's what I have always done, web technologies. And at McKesson, once we were done with the McKesson.com project, after 1.5 years over there, it was a question for myself: will I now operate McKesson.com as a program manager, or do I need to do something bigger? And I always love to solve problems. That's what I excel and I'm passionate at. It's that brings every day that energy and enthusiasm in me. When I get up, I know I'm going to do something amazing today. And that was something at that point of time. I had a question in my mind: should I stay here or should I leave? Because I wanted to solve big problems, not just run a website. And please do not take it something that I feel I'm downplaying running website. Running a website that generates a lot of business or a lot of e-commerce and things, I'm excited about it. Yeah. But running a corporate website, just a corporate website, is something I'm not very excited about. And at that point of time, one of my colleague, she shared a very good article around the next chapter in your career. And that article talked about how wherever you are right now, you can stay at the same place. You don't need to change jobs. You don't need to change the company or even jobs. And you can start looking things differently, and you can create new paths for yourself. And that encouraged me to look into. And then I saw that at McKesson, when it came to marketing, there was nothing happening in the digital. And that was the place where I started thinking about what we can improve and make things happen in marketing. And then rest is the history. Since then, I have been on this side for almost 8, 9, or 10 years now.
Excellent. That's amazing. Thank you. So when I think about digital marketing, I see it as a huge, broad spectrum of different things. How would you describe digital marketing in terms of what its purpose and goals are?
Great question, Pradeep. And I'll assume a lot of people may differ, but I see it from only two lenses whenever it comes to digital marketing. Yes, I can speak about enablers and all different things you need. Just like marketing, digital marketing is marketing on digital channels. That's the only difference, right?
Yeah.
And primarily these days, most of the marketing happens on digital channels. So we can call it marketing, or we can just call it digital marketing. But everything as I shared with you. So two main things, aspects I see since like digital was introduced into marketing. The main difference from the marketing and digital marketing is customer experience never used to be the big point for marketing previously. It was about helping the sales. It was about how can you create that sexy ad, this like that whole image about the brand, and you can help the sales sell more. But now with the advent of digital and everything around digital, customer experience is more important than even a lot of times your brand. It precedes even your brand. So digital marketing, I see two main things. That's the responsibility. One is to create an awesome experience, like experience that is simple. It doesn't need to be very fancy. It needs to be a simple something that works, like Google, like Amazon. They're simple experiences, but they work every single time that you go over there. That's number one. And I feel that's the most important responsibility of every person who is in marketing and digital marketing. And the second goal, which is offshoot of first, and if you're not doing the first one, the second like doesn't happen so well, is enabling growth. Gone are the days when sales used to lead everything on the front and marketing is just a support. When I got introduced into marketing at that point of time, most of the companies, and this is just 10 years ago, most of the companies still, it used to work this way. Sales will do the event, sales will meet the customer, and they will ping marketing only two times. One is when they need some new brochure, or they need some images or some content to send their customer, right? And second thing is when they wanted to put an event together, a conference. No other times. But since like last 10 years, one of the things that have changed big time is even B2B or B2C. There is not a difference. Yes, tactics are different, but how customers behave, they behave the same way, because every single day we are coached by platforms like Amazon what to expect even from the B2B side. So what happens is, like, when they come in, by the time they want to talk to a salesperson, they are already done 68 to 80% of their whole research and everything. So marketing has a very big role in the sales cycle also. So that's why I said enabling business growth. So two things: customer experience and enabling business growth. And I started with customer experience because if it doesn't happen, I don't think you can really enable business growth.
Definitely, that's a good point. I remember back in the days too, when I think it was an event, and our team reached out to marketing to help facilitate setting up that event. And once the event was done, we didn't talk to them again for another 6 months until whenever we need something else. So I completely get that. It's more of a partnership nowadays.
Yes.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. I think that partnership point is extremely important. One thing that comes to mind, Rohit alluded to it, is before you actually get, we talk about the whole sales funnel. Before you actually get people in the funnel, even in the funnel, they've done a lot of that research. And all of that research is taking place digitally these days, right? Rohit joked about people coming to him and marketing teams for getting new collateral and stuff like that. Gone are the days when you actually build collateral only when you're ready to launch. You have to prepare for all of this stuff from a print standpoint much earlier in the process, particularly in the B2B space, because the sales cycles, as we know, are long. And the buyers are extremely aware of the options available to them before they get into the process. So I think that's an incredible point that I wanted to emphasize as well. Go ahead, Rohit. You were about to say something.
Yeah, I just was going to talk about like new thing that I have seen something like around in last 2-3 years that has started becoming big. I feel like next 7 to 8 years or something that I really feel that is going to become bigger is like the whole concept around revenue engine models, or revenue gen instead of demand gen. Because what is happening is now marketing and sales are together. They're coming together. Because a few years back, the marketing and sales never used to talk to each other so well. Now they are working together, but still product is very far off. Most of the companies, product sits in its own island. And I feel like one of the things that this new model that is coming up is about focusing on revenue. And what does it mean? It has a triangle where you have marketing, sales, and product. And you are equally, like, you work together. And that's why I'm excited about like this call is that like this will enable us to like really help people to see that angle, that how because eventually like all products, why do we have products? Solve a customer need, create a business value for the business, right? And this revenue model, I'm very, very excited about that, how product sales and marketing can all make it happen together. And Pradeep, I was looking at your background and I saw you have a sales background. So I really am very excited about this.
Yes, so part of at the product angle, I push out the thing I'm trying to push out is collaboration, cross-functional team collaboration is very important, and you can't build a product in a silo because you're going to waste cycles of development, you're going to waste cycles of discovery. If you work well in a cross-functional team, it will make life a lot easier. And I started product management way back when it wasn't even called product management. And then for some reason, I wanted to go work in different departments, and accounting, finance, sales. I worked in various different departments to get an understanding of what they do, how they think, what are some of the important things that they consider. Because from an outside perspective, we can only teach how to work with sales to a certain extent. But if you've never worked in the sales team, you can't really feel the ups and downs the sales team has to go through to close a deal that could potentially take 8-9 months. When I worked in the sales team, one of my deals took, I think it was about 9 months to close. And from a product perspective, from a marketing perspective, you can't teach that ups and downs that we have to go through, working with the management, working with the business, working with procurement. And it's like procurement's job is one thing, management's job is one thing, and the business itself is one thing, right? So you can't teach that unless you've lived it.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point. Again, if we were to think about from a difference perspective, B2C versus B2B, or these days also B2B2C, this whole premise that you're going to see a hockey stick kind of growth that you see in a B2C environment in the B2B space as well is kind of a misnomer. And I say, typical deals within an enterprise take about 6 to 9 months to close anyway.
Yeah.
And understanding that process, that if you're starting a launch of product today, assume, especially if it's a B2B product, assume that you're going to take the first 10 to 18 months to get a few deals. And that is also possible if you've built a pipeline. That goes back to Rohit's point earlier, is if you're going to launch today, you should have been kind of building a digital footprint, a digital marketing campaign about a year ago to have enough to be able to go the 10 to 18 months. And I like that part. I mean, one of the things that Rohit talked about, we'll dive more into some of the growth aspect. I want to learn more from Rohit on how he sees growth and product to work together.
Definitely. So before we move into the growth, I do have a question. What are some of the important metrics that you think should be tracked from a digital marketing perspective?
So I always love to answer this question with like a very ideal answer, but I've been working with different organizations. I feel like everybody has a very different maturity. Every organization has a different maturity. So if you just go after what you read on the internet because somebody wrote it down or somebody says it on a conference, I think doesn't apply to anybody. That's one disclaimer I would just put out is, hey, just keep in mind, you need to understand where your team is, where your organization currently is. And based upon that, like, for example, if somebody's a very mature SaaS organization, you may have a customer lifetime value already in place. You are a small company that is setting up analytics from scratch. It's easy for you to put a LTV together, and just a lot easier because then it can help your sales, your marketing, and your product and everybody else to use that. But for a large organization, we are putting together LTV is not so easy. And you will be surprised I'm saying this, but that's the reality because the data sits into some big ERP, CRMs, and all of the data systems and some big data warehouses somewhere, which creates it and it's not just one. Every organization that I have worked till now, you will not believe they would have 20 plus CRM systems or 10 plus minimum. They have 10 plus ERPs.
Yeah.
Then the number for everything else is in big numbers, 40, 50 or 20 or 30. So when you have data sitting in 40, 50 systems, there is no way you can find LTV. So that's why it's very, very important that we focus on those things. But again, going back to those two things that I was talking about, customer experience and business growth. So on the customer experience, I feel there are uh, some metrics that I personally feel very, very bullish about. Is on the experience side, like NPS, CSAT. Different people like different flavors of those, like, because it helps you understand how customer thinks about your services in general. But next one is when you talk about digital channels, like something like task completion rates. This is something that very few people use in the industry. And but if you can spend some time, and I really feel bullish about this one more than anything else, because it gives you some actionable item that you can use and you can improve your metrics regularly. So when I talk about task completion rates, it is very different for every organization. So the first thing is you sit together with your team, understand what are the tasks that the customers are coming to your digital channels and trying to complete. And then you create how you like measure that. And once you have that, it is something that you can track progress and be very, very action oriented on that. Plus, then there are some like basic like behavioral things that you will see, like how much time they spend on your sites, how often they come back, because especially when you talk about B2B, it applies to B2C also. It's very, very important that you should distinct between a customer who just come once or once in 2 months, versus a customer who comes maybe like a couple of times in a day, and a person who is coming back maybe 3 times in a day, or in a B2B cycle maybe 4 times in a week, or 10 times in a month, is a higher value customer for you, who is willing to go to the next stage if you are going to help that person. So those are the things on the experience side. When it comes to on the business growth side, then those are like normal metrics that like product teams or anybody else would use.
Yeah. Hey, Rohit, I want to, if you will, expand a little bit on, by the way, your point about multiple CRMs, ERPs in an organization. I have spent my last decade in startups. And although the number you mentioned is mostly for larger companies, 10, 20, 30 or like that, even in startups, the number of CRM systems is mind-boggling. And one of the things I have learned is because when you have a sales leader, a product leader, a marketing leader, and someone who started as a founder of the company, whatever they feel comfortable with, they actually bring that in. I mean, there's always a Salesforce instance, and then there's 5 other things that are going on, and then everybody's jamming, trying to figure out how do we get everything in Salesforce. Well, so I think that's a valid point. Going back to NPS versus CSAT, what's your take? There's been a lot of talk in the market about, well, Net Promoter Score, NPS, and CSAT, customer satisfaction numbers. Some people say, well, NPS is just a facade. Some people say, well, NPS is the greatest thing to kind of figure out. What's your general take on that?
I'm laughing because this is the question I always try to avoid, but I will answer over here for the first time. You're absolutely right. This is my experience also. Is this whole like NPS is something that every senior executive, especially, they love this score because none of them, or I'm sorry, I will take my word back. I would say majority of them do not sit in or go into the trenches and make it happen. It's something they go and tell their teams and they, hey, NPS, go after it because it's the coolest thing in the town. It's great. It's great for at a C level, at CEO level. It's good to understand, just have a good feel of your customer. What are they struggling with? Are they happy or they are not? Because there is not enough in it. It's not actionable. That's my problem with NPS.
Yeah.
It's simple, but it's not actionable. In order to make NPS actionable, I know some people have told me, oh no, NPS is actionable because we added 10 questions after the NPS score, because then it doesn't stay as NPS, it becomes a CSAT, right? So it's like my challenge with NPS is, as much as I like it because it's simple, it's not actionable for my teams. And that's why where I feel like a CSAT is something which is more robust. But the problem with CSAT is they become so extensive. Yeah. They become so extensive that no customer wants to have CSAT. If I am a customer, if you send me a CSAT survey, I'm going to take some time, or possibly I will not do it. So having that middle ground is very, very important. Understanding that the industry has matured, getting data is so easy if you have the right people and the right skill set and right leaders in your organization who truly understand how this works. You can pull those numbers on a very regular and frequent basis. You don't have to ask the customer like once in a year or once in a quarter. You can be running those quite often, while you pull data from behavioral systems like the web analytics, product analytics, and you marry all of that on the back end and created something which NPS gets also bundled in, and then you create something that is usable, actionable, and you can move forward the company. That's what I believe is the right.
That's a good point. And another anecdote about NPS that comes to mind is, depending on when you choose to run NPS, it is a feedback in a moment of time. And if there is a major process that you've run and bungled up somehow, your NPS is about, even though the service for the rest of the period or the year may have been awesome, but if that one moment something just got messed up, your NPS is going to go down. And without having the other extra qualifications of what really transpired, it can be a very misleading metric in some shape or format.
Oh, I think we just lost Rohit.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sure we convinced him. The whole conversation about NPS and CSAT was one of those things where it kind of tricked him, and he's like,
"Yeah, I'm out of here.
I'm out of here. You guys are asking questions I don't want to answer."
Yep. Give it a minute.
It's interesting though. While we wait for Rohit, he's talked about a very interesting things. I mean, task completion rate in the product and design world. We also talked about. Hey, welcome back, Rohit. Yeah, we just
sorry for that. I don't know what happened.
No, that's okay. I was just picking up the thread on the task completion rate thing you mentioned. I was going to make a comment about the fact in the product and the design world, we talk about time to task as one of the metrics to basically be able to gauge how further simplification of a workflow is possible. We used to call it time in a number of clicks that it takes to do something, particularly in fintech. Just over recently, there was a whole study about how many clicks does it take for people to create a account and so on and so forth. So task completion rate from a marketing standpoint is very crucial. Similarly, from a product perspective, we are always looking to simplify and reduce the time to task or the number of clicks that it takes for a end user to finish some of these tasks. So
great point, Neeraj. And one of the examples I've been giving this example, I think every time I speak to anybody on this topic in a conference, in the team, or anywhere, is like that whole misnomer around, like mostly on the marketing side. One thing that is commonly used as a metrics is time on page. How much time somebody is spending on page. And marketers and people who are in the web, they like to see people staying for longer and longer because it means their content is working. But here is an example where it is totally against that mindset. And somebody is unhappy with your service and they are trying hard to resolve an issue. All they came to your website was to find a number of a person they can call. And now this person is on your website for 5 minutes. Is that a good experience or a bad? It's a ridiculously bad experience.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Right? So I feel like those traditional metrics are not right. And the metrics that you were just mentioning are the ones around, and just like you talked about clicks. I'm so glad you're talking about that. And I'm really this is possibly a first time I'm having a discussion like this with people who from the product background. It's really good to hear because that's exactly is the mindset of the new people who are in this specific area, is how to reduce clicks. Why do we need to have 5 clicks? If you search for something and you say, I want to buy this, you are telling Google that I want to buy this. Why do I need to take you to first company's homepage, then make you click from there to the product category? From product category, I make you to click on a product story, and then I tell you how to buy it. That's nonsense.
Yeah, I think it also boils down to a couple of things. One, in the standpoint of the awareness, as we talked early on, the research the person and the user, a buyer, has done a bunch of research before they're making up their minds to say, I want to buy this. They've done some evaluation of whether it's a B2B product or a B2C product, either through virality, word of mouth, a friend, or some other way of research. So, and then the going back to your your comment about task completion rate, my task is to go buy. So reduce that time. And from a product perspective, I want to make it as easy for you to buy or get the information that you're looking for so quickly that you can then come back and have a mental memory of the fact that I was able to do this particular task on this site or on this product so easily. I want to keep going back to it because I'll find value in there. Because time is way more important than money in the lives that we are running. And our simplification aspects are more about reduction of where I spend time on, because I want to maximize. I mean, money you can earn, time once gone is lost.
You're right.
Definitely you're right. So Neeraj, a question for you first, and then I'll ask Rohit the same question. Product marketing, there's different companies that take different takes on this. And Drift is one of those companies that I actually enjoy seeing their product marketing on social media or whatever they pump out, right? Drift is one of those companies that whenever they do something, it draws you in to learn more, right? What are some of the examples that you're seeing that draws you in from a product marketing perspective?
That's an interesting one. I mean, Drift certainly stands out. From a product marketing standpoint, I've also found, so there's two aspects. People who are spending explicit time and effort on product marketing. So Drift stands out there.
Yeah. And
then you think about, from a digital standpoint, how even the lack of marketing. So for example, Slack is one of my favorite apps. I don't know how many different communities of Slacks I'm part of. Each one's useful. They didn't have to spend a lot of money or very conscientious effort on marketing. They are marketing their website. They've got corporate messages. You see some ads. This is where work gets done, stuff like that. You've started to see a little more of the marketing in the past, I would say, couple of years or so. But marketing, like sales, is one of those things that's most effective when you don't really feel that you are being marketed to or you're being sold to, and yet you're kind of getting involved and getting in deeper and deeper, finding the value of it. So there's another one that I like a lot, particularly from a product and design standpoint. It's Figma.
Yeah.
Figma has done a great job. I mean, from a marketing standpoint, yes, again, same things. They have digital presence. They're doing some things out there. But it's not that you get marketed to. You're basically told about the value of. My first experience with Figma was, biggest challenge for me was working with designers, whether it's with third-party agencies or within the company, is providing feedback. You would have these large PDFs going back and forth in Box or Dropbox or what have you, and they came back and said, hey, provide online feedback. You are able to do it very quickly. The person on the other end or the designer is going to get it very easily and be able to have an interaction on that. I thought that was a very interesting way to solve a real problem and then market on what you as a user are going to get value out of, rather than saying, oh, we're the coolest thing, we're the design tool that runs online in a browser, don't need to worry about it. I've enjoyed those kinds of things. Those two come top of mind for me. Dribbble, I will say yes. That's an excellent example as well.
Great. What about you, Rohit? What are you seeing?
No, I think I have similar experiences with some of those platforms, some of those companies. I firmly agree, Neeraj, with what you were saying. It's like that subtle marketing you do as part of whatever you are already doing. Because when you do marketing just for the sake of doing marketing, you create a feeling of a frustration on the other end where the person is not willing. Like this whole coronavirus situation is a prime example where everybody started jumping on that bandwagon that, oh, we have to say something about it. And we have to send 100,000 emails to our customers immediately. Even if I don't have content, I just want to say something. And I will include some marketing material in it. I think marketing is, there is a huge thing about empathy in marketing. And I like Coke advertisements. I mean, if you talk about ads, I like Coke like really, really well, because like the way they do it, like there's always a human element to it. Like they really understand your emotions, and then they just try to serve something to your emotions. And I feel like that is like the marketing that you really need to have. And as you were talking about all of those examples, Neeraj, I feel like those are the companies who understand by adding value is the best way to market yourself. And the best market yourself is people like word of mouth. And if you're doing some right things for the community, people are going to do the marketing for you.
Definitely. Now, Rohit, I have to plug my charger in. Do you have a question for Neeraj in the meantime?
Yes, I have a question, because I'm going to take this opportunity as like something to learn from like product leaders like you, both of you. So hey, like as you have worked through multiple companies and you have been working on the product side, what is the like you may like to take some examples where you have seen marketing really creating value for the product side, and like how you have seen that value being created.
Yeah, I mean, but so in my experience, I think in particularly on the SaaS side, which is where I have been involved on the B2B product building and security and collaboration, and now in fintech, the traditional model of marketing, which was, and you said it very nicely. The move has been away from demand gen to rev gen. I think that's a very important point, because earlier we used to think of marketing as a awareness, create the awareness about something that's going on, and then just lead to the acquisition part of it. And then from that point on, it was somebody else's sort of charter to do something about it. If I remember correctly, it was a model of growth that I think Chamath had, and I have to find this. I think that'll be an interesting thing to see here. He came up with this thing: what's the difference between marketing and growth? And from a growth standpoint, all the things that you pointed out just don't stop at the awareness and acquisition, but go down the path of activation, retention, and eventually to rev gen. The ultimate goal for marketing is make it referral, right? We talk about, and this is where the lines between a sales and a marketing and customer success all kind of merge together, is the ability to actually convert a prospect to becoming a referral. That whole journey is pretty fascinating to me. So where have I seen it working really well? I think in my experience, at Sky High Networks, we were a first category creating security company, cloud access security broker company, got acquired by McAfee. I used to run Shadow IT product line there. And not only were, thanks to Kamal, who was a good marketing leader, we were able to have that category created, but we also saw the virality of the customers who actually bought our product. So these were CIOs and CISOs who were buying the product. Many of these leadership communities are they talk a lot to each other. They speak with each other. They share their experiences. And I saw that kind of really working really well for us at Sky High, because we had large number of these, not only just the users. I mean, typically in a B2B, who's a buyer may not always be the user. And we saw these buyers and users being able to promote our product. So I found that whole aspect of customer success, making sure that you're not touching the customer only when it's time for renewal, because that's the other thing that has changed over the last, I would say, 7-8 years, right? Where it's not like a 3-year, 5-year deal anymore. You may still do that, but there are contracts built that if a customer is not happy, they're not getting the value out of the product, they'll bail. Or there are so many other providers out there. The cost of switching, as long as that is low enough, the barrier is low enough, the customers will move. So I have seen it work really well in that particular example. And I also like the fact that we are now talking about growth. And growth to me is a function of marketing all along. It's not just the awareness part of it, but the entire journey, as I call out.
Pradeep?
Definitely. So what product marketers that I've worked with, we've primarily focused on two areas. You got the before launch, where you're talking about the positioning, the messaging, customer development, market strategy. But then once you've launched, you start moving into the sales enablements and making sure that it's becoming successful. The customer is using it and they're happy and they're actually getting the jobs that they need to get done to move into that phase of, okay, I'm using that software. But now the next step is retention, to make sure that I continue to use it. And then once you've hit that retention phase, then the next phase is referral, that you're happy with that product, that now you're going to go tell other people. So I look at it more of a pre-launch and then post-launch from an activities perspective, because there's certain goals and objectives that need to be met pre-launch and post-launch. So I look at it as more of a partnership from that, bring digital marketing in and product marketing in as early as possible. So there's alignment between what we're trying to solve, who we're trying to solve for, and why we're doing it. So if they're in earlier, as they start thinking about the marketing aspect, they can weave in certain aspects early on, as opposed to, as we've said, when you need it or whatever. So for me, it's that two perspectives.
Yeah. If I may add one more thing, I think that's a very interesting point that Pradeep brings up. What I promoted and also big champion of now is not only just pro marketing post versus pre-launch kind of stuff, but that continuous things that we do, the feedback loop, allows as a product person for us to take the market feedback early on, be able to synthesize it, understand the trends of what may be required. We all have our roadmaps. I mean, look, I've been on both sides of this. We are agile, and yet I've gone into GMs and actually had to present a roadmap for 1 year and 2 years and 3 year timeline, right? That's happened. I'm now on the leadership side, and sometimes it's like, I understand the roadmap is confirmed for 3 months, but need to have some kind of vision where you're going to have 6, 9, 12 months. That 6, 9, 12 month, 15 month, 18 month kind of thing, when you get marketing going, really working well for you, besides the competitive intelligence and what's going on in the landscape, getting that feedback in of what are some of the trends coming up, that allows product folks like Pradeep and myself and many of the product teams to understand what the customers are asking for. Where are we going to go build next, so that we not only do we not retain and gain, but don't lose anyone. Because that's the important part of it. It's like it's in the SaaS business, it's easy to keep getting the customers relatively as long as you're providing value, but it's also very quick. I mean, if you can't retain them on a long LTV, goes back to the LTV. If that LTV keeps reducing, then you don't have a sustainable business in the long run.
Definitely. So, as you were talking about all the different phases, one of the areas that you did not directly alluded towards was renewals. So, when it comes to renewals of products, what is the thought of product leaders when it comes to marketing, or in general, product marketing, digital marketing, whatever?
Yeah. So I look at retention and as part of renewals, and the reason why I say that is, even if I'm signing you for a customer for a year or 2 or 3, at some point in time, the renewals are going to come up. And one of the things that I've seen this in multiple organizations now is don't go to the customer when it's just 3 months before the renewal. That's where the customer success teams are actually come up, right? I mean, I've dealt with this where suddenly a huge list of things will come from one of the customer success associates saying, oh, these are a list of customers who asked for these things. Oh, by the way, here's the ACV for this, and here are 5 things, and they're going to be renewing next quarter. Which of these features can we actually get built so that we don't have to lose face in front of this customer? I think marketing plays an incredibly important role. Going back to your comment about customer success, customer experience, is touching base on a regular basis, understanding that the core value, which is what product building is really about, is building a core value so that people can actually leverage it, use it, have a real problem to solve. Going beyond that core value so that the largest percentage of audiences can actually, the total addressable market can actually get to that value as quickly as possible. that is incredible for me, right? And it goes back to the experience that you mentioned earlier about customer experience. The core value to largest percentage of users possible as quickly as possible on a ongoing basis. And that ongoing basis is where marketing I plays an incredible role by learning the feedback, providing that to the product team so the product can actually continue to build and expand that core value. Because once we have, so for example, any automated workflow, once we have automated a workflow, the next thing that automatically comes out, and I've done this thing so many times, is you automate a workflow, the next thing people are going to talk about is reporting. How did I do better? How much better can I do? You build the reports, then they come back like, I just need this other thing on an x-axis or some other 3 additional parameters. Having done this so many times, I'm like, okay, here's a roadmap. Automate it, make it simple, give them reporting, now give them custom reporting. And by the way, by the time you get to the custom reporting, you should be looking at what other 2 or 3 workflows can you now feed this data into so we can now go after and automate these other workflows. So it's a cyclical process, and that's where I see marketing, digital marketing, provides a lot of value, bringing that data back into saying, I'm hearing this in the market space. If we put this thing out there, I mean, I believe a lot in user-centered design, and part of it is about running quick experiments, right? Sometimes you don't need to build anything. All you need is put up a web page out there from a print standpoint and understand the desirability, viability, feasibility, sustainability of that particular capability. And that comes all from marketing.
Thanks, Neeraj.
Definitely.
Long answer to your short question.
No, that was really exactly like the details I was looking for, because as I shared with you, I want to learn from both of you. So that was really a great answer in detail.
So here's one for you. And as we get to the bottom of this and towards the closure part, you've been involved with digital marketing for a while. You've seen the transitions. You've seen the entire landscape of marketing change in the last few years, right? In the post-COVID, with everybody glued to their screens, how does digital marketing change? What are the things you foresee in the 12 months? Anything beyond I consider as non-agile, so I don't consider it. What do you see some of the changes coming in, or trends that you think from a digital marketing standpoint?
So first of all, I'm no expert. That I neither I have a crystal ball, and I always try to run away from these questions because you never know what will happen. Because I read this book called Black Swan.
Mm-hmm.
And since I read that, I strongly believe things can happen, and we are just living through one of that is coronavirus, that nobody expected that something like this will happen and it will change. That this is I read that book last year, and this year I'm literally living through that book. That's why I personally don't believe trends, but I'll still talk about some high level things that I see happening in this space when we talk about digital or digital marketing in general. First of all, I have seen a huge spike, and I see a huge spike of increase in digital consumption, because now offline, it's there are more and more less amount of events or things like those physical things happening. So it's more you have to pivot toward digital. So digital becomes, so marketing really is going to become all digital marketing. That's all in general, I feel. That's one. Second thing I see as a trend in this space is irrespective of coronavirus or not, because of the data and everything available, plus because of the corona-led recession, companies have to become very smart where they spend money and not. And they cannot spend money on all those paid media places where they have been spending all that money. They have to start thinking very creatively, and they can't just spray and pray. They have to go after things in a way which is totally, absolutely towards oriented to get the best results. And if you talk about B2B, account-based marketing has been something which has been becoming very, very big, very strong thing. I feel it's going to become a main stage thing for all organizations, for both increasing their sales to market to the right prospects who are really in the market. Second, also to shorten the buying cycle, because when you really understand who is in the market, you can really trigger things to shorten that sell cycle. So account-based marketing, I strongly feel, is going to become more important than ever before. Other than that, I also feel like now there will be a push towards a couple of things from a technology perspective more than ever before. And these are things like data and analytics, which is more, I would call, intent data, things like those. Because now everything everybody is doing is all digital. You cannot have like water cooler discussions. You cannot have discussions like wrong word. Cannot is not the right words. You can still call somebody, but still people are more on webinars. People are more like chatting on different channels with each other, finding out what is the right solution in that space. So more data is available to figure out what is the true intent, who is trying to buy this product, who has a need for that product. And then AI and RPA are like are the things I feel, because there are less people available, they are in remote places. You will be like automating a lot of your processes that were very much human dependent in marketing or anywhere else.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And you're right. I mean, things are changing, everything. And ABM, I think there's a topic of discussion and exchange in near future to just discuss all things ABM in the SaaS world, particularly for B2B, and how some of the best practices that you've observed. I think that'll be my vote to have a discussion in the future.
And in fact, like if whenever we are open for that topic, there are some really hard hitters in that space, early pioneers. I was blessed to be among the very early few people who were in this space doing ABM, and my teams were doing those things. I can bring a couple of those people and we can invite them, ask them questions, and really take the game to the next level.
That'll be awesome.
Sounds excellent. Thank you so much, Rohit and Neeraj.
All right. Well, cool. It's always a fun speaking with you, Pradeep. Rohit, thank you for joining and talking about digital marketing. I love learning from you. And,
Absolutely.
have a wonderful day, guys.
Thank you.
Take care. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.